Good morning, traders. Chris Buss here with Traders Profit Compass with your morning look at markets for Wednesday, February 3rd. What I want to do today is take a look at oil, which has broken out. Briefly touch on the dollar. Then I want to run through the indexes and the FATMAAN names. And then I want to take a look at the cannabis space, which is doing well and looking for a next leg higher. So you can see here I've got the daily chart of USO, which is the tracking ETF for oil. You can see after this consolidation period here, since really the beginning of this year, 2021, we've had this consolidation period, and then just yesterday popped out with a gap higher, and you can see the declining 200 coming in above. And what's interesting about this is twofold. All this week we've had a rising dollar. Now, we had talked about the record short positioning in the dollar and the potential for a short squeeze there. And so it's surprising with a rising dollar that oil has continued to move higher. So, and also I want to mention equities, oil, the oil names did not move in lockstep with this move yesterday. We didn't see a ton of big outsized moves that you would typically see, you know, with a nice move in oil. So my point is here is that somebody's not telling the truth. Okay, if oil's rising, they're betting on the dollar to fade as it approaches resistance. I don't have the charts here in front of me, but the dollar is heading into resistance. It's been strong. It's been resilient. There's, you know, a record short positioning. If that dollar continues to rise, that's going to be a headwind for oil. And maybe that's why the equities didn't move. That this breakout in the price of oil is suspect. Now let's look at the other side. Let's say the dollar rolls over here and oil marches higher as the economy reopens, as demand increases, etc., that it pops to 200 here. That would give a real good line in the sand to shoot against, even if you're not trading oil, as a place to monitor, you know, to watch in terms of the oil equities. Because if oil marches higher, takes out this 200, the dollar rolls over, you're going to see oil equity names, you know, the E&P names, the ETFs, the XOP, etc., start to move. So watch that sector closely in the days ahead, because I think one of two things is going to happen. The dollar's just going to continue to go higher and this oil move fade, or dollar rolls over and this goes higher. And a lot of this has been on the back of Saudi throttling production and really controlling the supply side. That has boosted the market, given it a bullish backdrop. So let's watch that carefully, because there may be some opportunities in the equity names to jump on the long side for at least a catch-up trade, if not even a longer duration bull run. Okay, SPY 2 hour. I think that the deleveraging that took place because of all the Wall Street bet turbulence of the past week has faded. I think the hedge funds are reloading with leveraged bets to the upside. And I think that turbulence is in the rearview mirror. as we kind of talked about yesterday in the pre-market, that the Wall Street bets day in the sun is quickly fading. The market is getting back to fundamental backdrop, which should be bullish, and marching higher. And this whole thing here was just a one or 2 day wonder as that forced selling took place, and then them reloading to the upside. So here today, it's 6:30 as I'm starting the video, with NASDAQ futures up about 0.6%. S&P futures were up about 0.3%, and small caps were actually down just a couple ticks. So generally bullish pre-market action. We'll see how it holds over the next 3 hours. But what you want to see here in SPY is the recapture of this nice channel that we had working for a long period of time out of December and into the new year. Jump up, go ahead and close this gap, which is up to basically 384, and then make a run at new highs at 385. And if price can pop 385, then that's your cue. If you've been long at any period on this bounce, to move up your stops, move up your strikes, put this money in the bank, and then look for higher ground to be carved out in the weeks ahead. And if you haven't been in, I think this morning, I think you want to key off the top of this gap fill. That would be a place where, if a rejection were to occur, come up, fill that gap, and then roll back down if the power isn't behind the move. So I really think that the top of this gap here at 384 is a key, and then take it from there, and then see if it can pop 385 if there's some power. And if there's some weakness, 381 would be a place I would think you could try a long. And if that does not hold, then we're going to come back down, and notice we've got an open gap from yesterday morning down here at 379.65 to be aware of. But I think the backdrop is bullish. The price action's been bullish. I think the big guys have been reloading this whole time. I think the Wall Street bets turbulence is behind us, and now focusing on fundamentals going forward. Here's the 30-minute exploded view of the price action. Here's your gap. Here's a little late day fade, settling in here against 381.50. There's a nice support level at 381. I wouldn't want to see that fade or fail. Then, if you're tactical and nimble, I would expect a move back down to at least the top of the gap. And then that would be a potential area for a bounce. And if things get really weak, a gap fill down to, 376. So not expecting that, but as we've seen in days past, anything can happen. Just go level to level. And I think that's the only way to actively trade. Fundamentals don't really mean much, in 30-minute blocks. Nothing changes in 30 minutes other than, the price action. So depending on how nimble you want to trade it, if you drop down below 381, you can look for a fade with a stop just above. Notice the posture of the PPO. It's got this rollover look. If that were to roll over, we may go into a little down cycle here and reset regroup with PPO, and then roll back up again after a reset. So that may be an opportunity, to fade while this thing resets and then jump back on the long side. If you're not that active, I would be looking for long entries. If you want to trade with the trend is up. So let that reset happen and then look for your long entries either down here at the top of the gap or somewhat below. Notice we've got this large VOP support, volume over price support, right in here at 378. And that would be a scenario where the gap does not fill, but only comes down halfway, finds support here on this large volume over price bar, and then bounces from there. Qs have been strong. You can see here it filled this upper gap and is green this morning. Notice here the posture of the PPO is totally different. We came down and we've come back up. It hasn't shown signs of beginning to roll over yet. So watch for a pop of this 328 and a pop back above this channel. And if it can pop 328, that would be a good line in the sand where you can, anchor your long and then see how far the bulls can push it today. So I'll be taking this, this gap off today since it has filled. And now we've got this open gap from yesterday morning that's still open on the chart. And here's the exploded view of it. If you were an active trader yesterday, that was your buy signal on the entry into the gap at 328.59, or 326.25, and then you got a nice push all the way to the top of the gap where it filled. And if you were an active trader, that would be typically a place where you'd cover your long and see if there was a reaction at the top of the gap, and there was at the end of the day. So let's see where this goes. If it can pop this prior high, this 328.59, then you can get long against that gap and look for a move higher. IWM has been lagging just a bit. I mean, it had a good day yesterday, but doesn't seem to have the power of the other indexes. This has a lot of the value reflation names where people have hesitated just a little bit. I mean, a nice bounce off of the lows. And if you were, had gotten long anywhere in here, no reason to get out. There's no sell signals. The only place I would worry is if this 212.50 were to give way. Then I would certainly be exiting, any long positions that I had. But, as of now, as long as this 212.50 holds right here, I think you're fine on a longer term play. Now, let's look at the scenario where you're not in, okay? You're looking for a long entry. If you got a pullback into 212.50, that's a nice line of support. See right here, support, 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 resistance, breakout. This should be good support here at 212.50. And if you got that price to pull in, that would be a nice objective place to try along with your stop just below. Let's run through the FATMAAN names. Facebook continues to make progress, up about 2% yesterday. Really, the toggle points for today are 270 and 266. If it pulls into 266, I think you've got an objective location to try along. If it were to break out above 270, I think you can look for 274. But let's look at this a little bit. The trend is down, and now we've had a nice 61.8 fib bounce. This is a critical spot for Facebook. I'll tell you why. Normally, when you've got a downtrend and then you get a 618 bounce, you're looking for continuation to the downside. You're looking for continued weakness, because that's the type of bounce you would expect to see on a down move, Fibonacci bounce, rejection at resistance, and then make its way back down. So this is a critical spot. Now, if it powers through 270, then you got to look to the upside, because it's taken out all the relevant fib zones where you'd expect rejections. It's taken them out, and then I'd be looking for higher. So the way I'm going to play it is I'm going to wait for 270 to be long, and if it loses 266, I'm going to get short, because those would be the toggle points for me to say, okay, above 270 looks more like a bullish recovery than a Fibonacci rollover. But if it loses 266, then odds favor pulling back into 260, something like that. So a little trickier setup because, of the Fibonacci bounce. So those are some things to think about if you want to actively trade Facebook. Apple is pretty much the same kind of thing. We've had a strong down move after earnings, and we've had a 50% fib bounce where that was rejected yesterday, and then it kind of dribbled lower. I don't think there's really a clean look right here for either long or short. I think the clearer levels are 133 and 138. I realize that that's a wide range, and the only other way to kind of deal with that is take yesterday's levels if you wanted to get long or short and play against that. And I think that would be this like 135.50 in that range. Above, look for a move up to 138, and below, stay short for a move back to 133. But not as clean a setup as I would like. So I'm going to probably let that one go. Tesla. Really nice study here, technical study of a principle that we've discussed many times, but it's worth going over. Fake breakout, a move above a well-defined range, moving back into the range, targets the bottom of the box. Got that move. Move below the box, fake breakdown. That's the one that I bid on, right? I went short here, then got stopped out. But once it re-enters the box, targets the opposite side of the box, right? So if you were on your game and you weren't worried about the money that you just lost on this short that failed, you get long there at 800, you got a unidirectional move right to the top of the box. And you can notice on both of these moves, pretty unidirectional. I mean, this was straight down. You had one day right in here, but didn't go very far. And then right down to the bottom of the box. And then here, once it recaptured that level, you got $80 in the course of, a couple days, 3 days, 2 days, something like that. So those are nice trades and ones to be aware of. Now today, if it pops 880, you get long with a stop just below. I wouldn't be interested in trying to short it here unless I saw some kind of weakness in the overall market. But if you pop 880, then you've got this little layer of resistance at 890, but then on to new highs if it can break that level. And remember, measured move is $80. So your measured move on a breakout is 960. Microsoft was soggy yesterday. Really, it was a flat day. Look for a breakout of 243. That should give you a move up to 250. Otherwise, if you got to pull into 238, that could be a place where you could try a long. But if it came all the way back to 232, I would be definitely be a buyer there. See if it can hold that level, and then maybe this is a big consolidation range between 232 and 243. But I really think it favors a breakout here. But you got to wait for it. Either get long at 238 for a move back up to 243, or get long on a breakout. Amazon. Got the daily here because of earnings last night. It wasn't doing a lot pre-market. It was down here in the 3350 area. I think if it holds that level, you can be long and look for a move above. You wouldn't want to see, after that blowout earnings, trade down below the prior day's close down here at 3350. Remember, all the FANG names, except for Microsoft, traded down after blowout earnings. And you really wouldn't want to see Amazon do that as well. So watch that 3350 level. Google, blowout earnings, trading up here at 2060. At least in the pre-market. You'll have a big gap below on the open. Watch that, especially if there's a big fade they put on. Not expecting that, but you got to be aware of it. And remember, if you go back to the weekly chart, we discussed this. The measured move target on the weekly is 2200. And it looks like it's well on its way. We're up here at 2050 already. So from a technical standpoint, there's $150 left in the upside target. So keep that in mind. If you played earnings and you got that pop, congratulations. I would be rolling up my strikes and rolling up my stops if I was in that, and watch today's trading very carefully. Netflix came up here to this 552.50 area where it stalled. You've got a beautiful line here today to play against. If it recaptures 552.50, get long and look for 570. If it can't muster anything, then you may see, it dribble lower. But you'll have to decide how, aggressive you want to try to, fade any move. If you got to pop into 552.50 and you saw it stall and you wanted to give it a shot on the short side, just set your stop slightly above, and then respect the stop if it pops it. I didn't put on the fibs here, but just like Facebook and some of these other FANG names, your move was down, and now we've had a Fibonacci bounce back up. If this whole thing is going to roll over, it's going to be, right in this area. So a little early to tell what's going to happen, but you do have a very clear line in the sand at 552.50 to shoot against. Okay, let's go into cannabis. This is the Canadian Cannabis ETF, MJ. Impulsive move, bull flag, measured move higher, bull flag, breakout, measured move higher. This is classic, bull market action. Impulse, consolidate, impulse, consolidate, impulse. So I got long yesterday, sent out that trade notice. Let's see where this can go. I would be, you can set your stop, just inside this box. I want to see a follow through today and, get this thing going. I really like the look of this chart, and let's see how high this can push. I've looked at a couple of other individual names. Here's Aurora Cannabis. We've got this value area right here, if you follow my cursor, on these high volume over price bars. Here's the top end of value, and price is right there right now with the declining 200. And you can see that volume over price resistance falls away above the 200. If you want an individual name and you see Aurora pop to 200 here at 13, that would give you a nice line to shoot against. And I think it can make 17 as a target with this volume over price bar here. And you can see some price action above where that was prior support. That'll become resistance. So I think that's a nice risk reward. If you can get long at 13, put your stop at 12, you got $1 of risk and $4 of upside potential. So that's 1 to 4. That's a good risk reward. And even if you wanted to play it a little bit tighter, once you pop the 200 at 12.50, that would be fine as well. This Grow Generation has been a great stock. Good price action. Been consolidating for the last however many weeks. $10 range. Watch for a breakout above 52.50 or 53. If you got that breakout, measured move target up to 63, I like that trade. I've got an alarm set there. So if you are interested in another individual name in the cannabis sector, I like this setup. This is the ETF for U.S. operators, MSOS. It too is pushing the top end after a recent pullback. It would have been nice to catch this at this support level with the high volume over price. That would have been a great entry. Didn't get it. So now your next decision point is on a breakout above 46. I like the U.S. operators because I think there's going to be bullish legislation being passed with the Democratic Congress. A lot of legalization, possible federal legalization, opening up the banking laws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think this goes higher. 46 would be a nice place to take a long on a breakout. So let's wrap it up there. Quick recap. Let's watch oil and the dollar. Oil breaking higher against the backdrop of a rising dollar. One of those is wrong. One of those, either the dollar keeps going higher and that's a headwind for oil, or the dollar rolls over and then oil takes off. And in that case, you want to be looking at the oil equity names and ETFs, XOP, etc. Bullish backdrop on the indexes as Wall Street bets fades and that turbulence is put behind us. I think the big boys are re-leveraging, piling back in. We see that in the price action. FATMAAN names have not traded particularly well out of earnings, with Facebook, Apple, Netflix all trading down after stellar earnings. Let's watch Amazon and Google closely to see if they break that trend and drive higher. Generally speaking, want to look for long entries and not short entries, but we've got to watch that closely as Facebook and Apple put in fib bounces where if they're going to roll over, it's going to be soon. So watch that. And then the cannabis sector looks strong. We took a long in MJ. Other individual names are approaching breakout levels. If you're interested in that, please mark it and pull the trigger if you get the alarm going off. Okay, if you're new here and like the commentary and have found some good ideas, please hit the subscribe button. We'd love to have you. Hit the alarm bell. You'll get all my content delivered to you. Over in the show notes, places to links to visit the blog site. A lot of helpful articles there for aspiring traders at all levels, and also a place to register for all my content. And you won't miss a beat, as you'll get a nice tidy email in your inbox every time I send something out, along with an invitation to our trading room that is growing by the week. We'd love to have you there. And if that sounds appealing to you, to gain some fellowship and camaraderie in a positive room with a lot of ideas, register, and we'd love to see you join us. So for today, this has been Chris Buss with Traders Profit Compass. Have a good day of trading. Talk to you next.